Here we go. Good evening and welcome to Success in the City. My name's Helen Webster. I'm with the lovely
Sandra Scott, and our guest today is Tom, all the way from New Orleans. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, Tom, we're going to say good morning to you because it's morning in New Orleans. What time are we there, Tom?
It's 2:30.
Wow. 2:30 in the morning?
No, 2:30 in the afternoon.
Oh, you said good morning. I was completely confused.
Oh, well, I'm a little slow. I'm slow.
Good
I've only
afternoon.
been up a few hours.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. That's okay. Then I
Good
panicked. Then I thought, oh, my
afternoon.
days.
Good day.
Yeah.
Covers it all.
Good day. Good day. Okay. We're absolutely delighted. So last week was our very first face-to-face, in-person Success in the City show, live from Fletcher's, which was amazing. This week, our guest is in New Orleans, which is just unbelievable. So a massive, massive thank you to you, Tom, for giving your time up, and you're going to share your story of how you got to listen to our show and everything like that. And we're going to have a massive chat about all the sunflowers because I can see lots of sunflowers in the background. So we'll have a little chat.
It's my, well, here it's National Kansas Day here in the States. Kansas is also called the sunflower state because it's their national state flower.
All right.
However, it's also the national flower of Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Right. Okay, it's not really a Ukraine flag. I just took a blue T-shirt and a yellow T-shirt and pinned them together. So
amazing. I love that. Brilliant. That's fantastic. So first we shout out to the kids, any young people who've done amazing things. So San, any young people who've done amazing things?
Oh, yes, definitely. So one of my young people today came top of the class in Spanish after getting this since she's been with us. And the brother came on and he came top in Russian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're on fire at the moment, our kids. They're all doing really, really well and they're coming on loads. Oh, and another young lady who I just started teaching A-level very, very recently since the beginning of February. That was it. And she's in college and they'd had no teacher through sickness and COVID. And then she's on her third or fourth. She had supply after supply. I think she's on a fourth Spanish teacher in 18 months. And she got A mark. She needs a B for uni. She's just done a mock exam and got a C. And I said, we'll get you to a B, no problem, because she's hammering it. So I made up really good with that. And the little girls as well. And everything's great. All our young people are flying at the moment. So I'm really pleased.
Amazing. So Kate's listening in and she's just, so Archie is a son and he was 6 yesterday. So happy birthday to, no, not yesterday, Sunday. Happy birthday to Archie. And Archie just said she looks like Helen. But it is me, Arch. So a big wave to Archie if he's listening in. So I want to give a massive shout out. I'm just going to read it off my phone so I don't miss any of them out. To Isaac, Alex, Zach, Max, Henry, and Jack. And they did a big walk. So it's 6 little teammates and they walked from Old Trafford to Anfield for Alder Hayes Children's Charity. And they're only 8. They're 8 years of age and they've walked all that way. And they've raised £3,110 so far.
Wow.
So well done and a big massive shout out to them. And Archie's waved back and he said he loves you. And we love you, Arch. So that's proper cute, isn't it? So Tom, any young people that you want to shout out to?
Well, my grandson just played all-state choir.
What's his name?
Luke Thomas.
And he's in the state choir.
Yeah, all-state choir, and he sings bass.
Oh.
When I was still singing soprano when I was in high school. I can sing bass now, but I guess he has more testosterone than me.
Well done, Luke.
Fantastic. Well done.
Shout out to Luke. Well done. So we've got amazing young people doing amazing things. What's success this week for you personally? What amazing things has happened to you personally this week? I think we're going to start with Tom.
Well, I've been on a weight loss diet all year since New Year's because over the holidays, I peaked at like 235. Today I am 208.
Hey!
I'm sort of like a stones pound. You know, we measure in stones here.
Right.
Well, also older people measure in stones. So I'm not too sure.
So how many pounds have you lost? What did you say? 230 to
25, 26.
25 pounds, 2.2 pounds. Nearly 2 stone. Nearly 2 stone.
Oh,
That's
good.
fantastic.
That's amazing. I need to do that by next week.
Me too. I'm on a diet, Tom.
Yeah,
Well, it's really hard when you live in New Orleans.
I can imagine.
Everybody cooks here.
Yeah, I can
Food
imagine.
all over the place, everywhere.
Yeah. John Howie's listening, who has been our former guest. And John Howie's, we're sending him big get well wishes. And he said a stone is £14. Yeah. So it's nearly 2.2 pounds to a kilo. But yeah, so he's nearly, sorry, pounds. He's put, not poods.
Yeah.
Well, that's all right. We read it as pounds, and that's cool.
What you meant, yeah.
Yeah. San, what success for you this week?
I've had a few successes, Helen, but you know, it's always the simple ones that are the best, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm winning at the moment. I've lost £3, Tom, since Sunday because I'm fuming, because I eat so much, Tom. If I'm careful and stick to it, it drops off me. But the problem is I'm easily tempted by like chocolate and things like that. But Sunday, Tuesday, religiously, I've lost I lost £3 by this one. I keep going because I'm on a mission now. I'm in the zone. It's March, winter's over, the sun's shining, the daffodils are popping up. So I'm in a good place. So
well done, mate. And Liz Bentley is listening in, and Liz was our guest, our very first live guest last week, and the feedback we've had from it is amazing. And she's going to be one of our grown-up shout-outs, so she'll have to wait and see till the end. You have to keep her listening. But yeah. So my success this week, I've had loads as well.
Yeah.
But it was Phil's birthday, not last weekend, the weekend before. And as a surprise, I'd booked a big house in Bala, which is in Wales. And we all went as a big family and just had a boss weekend. So we turned Corey into a vegan, plant-based weirdo and took him up in the hills and mountain climbing and with all the dogs and everything like that. And it was just amazing. It was just lovely to all be together because it's been a tough 2 years and people haven't been able to be together through certain things. So it was just lovely to all be together, and it was dead. And because Phil was really poorly over Christmas, we haven't seen them since Christmas. So we did our Secret Santa. So we do a big family Secret Santa in March, which might just become a new tradition to us all. And I got some really boss prezzies. But I got Buddha bowls. Have you seen them made out of coconut shells?
Yeah.
So I'm like a little bit delighted. I was like super, super excited about that. And today I've been for lunch with Phil to Auntie Beryl and Uncle Ron, and we went to the refreshment rooms. So that was ace. So yeah, I've had a boss nice little weekend, and we've got lots of that exciting things to come, haven't we, for the rest of the month?
Going on really, just loads.
So yeah. So we're gonna play this or that. Okay, Sandra, are you gonna go first, or am I gonna go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
Tom, po' boy or gumbo?
Oh. Oh, that's a hard one.
A Louisiana question.
I thought that.
Normally it would be a po' boy, but since I'm on a low carb diet now, I'd have to stick to the gumbo without the rice.
I'm on a low carb diet as well, Tom.
And I'm going to be a gag, and I'm going to join in as well.
Yeah, gumbo for me, 100%.
So can we explain to people? So po' boy, I had a po' boy. Is a po' boy like a baguette thing with? Because I've had a po' boy somewhere.
Tom,
it was like baguette.
You explain what it is.
It's like what Northerners call a submarine sandwich, but it's on French bread. It's not an official po' boy unless it's on French bread.
Okay.
And it was original, and here in New Orleans they make it a lot. So way back a century ago, they started. It was some group that was like unemployed or something. These poor men who were out of work or something. They started this program to feed them with some bakery or something. started out as just something that, you know, like help kids before, but they got so popular that they've been around ever since. So you don't have to be poor.
Yeah. And what's gumbo?
Gumbo, it's like a stew. It's got okra in it.
Ooh.
Yeah. And sometimes they'll like,
don't even know what okra is, but
no, it's nice.
Ladies' fingers, isn't it? Is
Yeah,
it like it's like
you know what
asparagus?
we used to call okra ladies' fingers here, Tom.
oh really?
Or is that asparagus? I might be telling fibs. That
No,
might be
no,
asparagus.
okra's lady
It
fingers.
is okra, yeah.
And so gumbo, often it might have like giant, what we call, Tom, we call them king prawns. You call them giant shrimp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a bit like a paella type?
No, it's more liquidy.
Okay. Oh, very
Well,
nice.
there's two main types. It's either chicken and sausage, or else it's seafood. And the seafood gumbo usually has a number of different things, like shrimp and fish and crabs and whatever.
Wow.
Gorgeous. I loved it. I had it when I was there. It was
Did you?
Yeah, I don't, not the Pope boys. I might have, but I like gumbo. I really like it. But
Oh, so I'd probably go po' boys. Yeah, if I had to choose one of them, yeah, because I don't do fish. Yeah. What would you go, San, if you had to choose?
Gumbo, hands down. Loads of the seafood's gorgeous in New Orleans, but a lot of it, it's what we call, Tom, deep fat fried. It's, I mean, it's like coated. So you'll go and you'll have a seafood platter, and you think you're getting all seafood, and everything's deep fat fried. Every prawn, every clam, every mussel, whatever you have, it's deep fat fried and coated, isn't it? So if you're not into that, it's a bit full on, really. It's all right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go now. Okay. Jazz or classical music? Tom.
Yeah. Well, I like both. I guess if you talk about live music, yeah, I'd prefer jazz. Because here in New Orleans, there's lots of venues that have, well, they stopped with the quarantine thing, but they're just now opening up, and it's great seeing live jazz music. This, like you go to the symphony, it sounds pretty much the same as it would on a recording, like a CD, whatever. But, but the jazz music is a whole different quality to it when it's live. And some of my family play in jazz.
Oh, nice. I'd go jazz music. One of my things is I want to go to New Orleans and I want to go to like the big carnival-y type them, and they're all broken down the street and playing jazz and all that. That's my big massive. Yeah, that'd be dead cool.
Yeah, we have quite a few festivals.
Yeah. What about you, San?
What was it? Jazz or
classical?
Classical. Oh,
I know.
Classical. I'm not a big jazz person, you know. New Orleans jazz is a bit different. I'm not a big jazz person overall. Classical for me, then I get to choose between those two genres. There we go. Okay. All right. Tom, working in a hospital, because we'll talk about your job shortly, working in a hospital or out and about in the community?
Oh, wow. Well, I did home health once, and I spent more time in the car driving around than I did with any people. So that's why, at least in a hospital, you're around people and not alone in a car driving most of the time. Because that's the thing. I was living on the North Shore, which is pretty rural, and houses are far away from each other, especially with its dairy farms. Even poor people have acres and acres and acres. So I spent a lot of time in the car, and also with home health, you have to spend all your time charting. So you're looking at the computer while talking to the patient, and they'd rather you be looking at them. So they feel like as if you're just paying attention to the computer and not them. So there's more interacting with in the hospital. Besides, you can go back and finish stuff if you miss something or whatever, and you can't do that at home health.
Yeah. You know what I didn't think how we'd respond, because I've never worked in a hospital or out and about the community. I just wanted to know which you chose, and that actually doesn't apply to me or you, Helen. I don't think in any way, shape, or form.
No, but if I was teaching, I would want to teach. So personally, I'd like to teach in the community because I quite like. But years and years ago, when I lived in Stratford upon Avon, and a friend of mine had set up like a care service for people, so older adults who couldn't get out and about and stuff.
Oh,
and I said, I'm dead cool going to like have a cup of tea and make lunches and things. And I just did it to support her a little bit because she couldn't find staff as she was just getting going. And I absolutely loved it. I loved it. And we used to just go and used to like make a cup of tea and a sandwich. But it wasn't caring for anybody medically or anything. It was more of a sort of a little companionship and making sure that they were okay. We didn't have to, bed bath anyone or anything like that. It was just like a little and I quite liked like going to different people's houses and things and making sure they were all cool. So yeah, it was quite I quite liked going out and about. I think a hospital, because I'm like really emotional, I don't think I could cope with dealing with people who were like written. Although in a crisis I'm quite good, and if somebody's poorly I'm really, really good. But I think if I had to do that all day, I think it takes a really strong character. And I think all of our services are superheroes for being able to do that all day every day is just
a vocation. It's an absolute vocation.
What about you, Sam? Would you rather be in a venue or out and about?
In a venue, probably, because as Tom says, you're out and about in the car, or because I've been a rep and stuff like that. When I was 18, I did voluntary work for a year for victims of violence in Dean Road off Edge Lane in Kensington. And I used to go to like this centre, and it was like for pensioners who'd been beaten up and everything, basically, and just help them. But the ladies who work there, they used to go, "Do you want to do this? Would you like to?" And I was going, "Oh, I can't. I'm painting the nails." And I'd make the sandwiches, and I'd be made up chatting to them, and they would like finding and I'd think, So I went, I know, next week I'll bring them, and I painted all the pensions were like that, made up with themselves. I like that type of thing, Yeah. I'd be the companion and taking them off out for afternoon tea, that type of thing. So Tom, hats off to you for your job that you do.
Indeed, and we'll find out more about that. We'll find out more as we go. So Tom, tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Definitely
coffee.
Do you drink tea?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Tom, when we say tea to you, give me an example of what type of tea you would drink.
Oh. Normally it's iced tea, like green tea or herbal tea.
You don't drink tea.
I don't do the European tea with like milk.
Yeah, so like European tea with milk, is that like a no?
It's not
like that.
Like this, yeah. Look at us.
All the time,
right. Yeah, but there's not enough caffeine in tea. Okay, I'll admit that the caffeine is the hook. I need my caffeine. You don't want to see me without caffeine.
What about you, Sam? Tea or coffee?
Well, I love coffee. I adore it. But because I'm so addicted to it, I'm rationing myself. So I've got myself back down to one in the morning. So I'm delighted with that. So I have one coffee and then I drink tea. And then I look at the coffee and I think, no. And I just have tea. Because you know what I'm like when I have loads and everything. I go horrendous. It gives me headaches and stuff because I'm so addicted to it. So I'm trying to cut right down. So I've been having tea all day.
So I'm tea. I taught myself to like coffee when I was about, I think I might have been about 27, 28. So I just didn't like coffee, and I taught myself to like it because I want to go to New York and ask for coffee.
We are going to New York.
Coffee. And I just thought, coffee. Yeah, so I'll go anywhere, but I just need to ask for coffee because I thought I can't really go in and ask for tea because it doesn't have the same ring, does it? So I used to drink milk, like a whole cup of milk with like 3 grains of coffee in a mix. And even now I can't have an espresso or anything like that. And if I have 2 cups, if I have 2 lattes, so I'm like a real wuss. If I have 2 lattes in the morning, at 2:30 in the afternoon, my skin goes alive and crawls and I feel all like jittery. So I'm a bit rubbish. I can't do the like proper, coffee as you drink, Tom. I just do like hot milk with a bit of flavouring in it, sort of thing, isn't it? Yeah. Go on, San, your last one.
Okay. Public transport or walking?
Walking for me. I mean, if it's within walking distance, yeah. Well, these days I walk every day because I need the exercise. See, when I was working on floor, as a nurse, you're on your feet. Well, in the old days, you'd be on your feet all the time. So I didn't want to walk when I was off duty.
Yeah.
But nowadays, since I'm not working at the moment, I have to walk every day just to get the exercise.
Yeah.
And this time of year, it's great. Every
Yeah.
walk is a nature walk.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. So what would you say, Helen?
Oh, 1,000,000% walking. 1,000,000%. Yeah, 1,000,000% walking. I'm not a lover of buses and trains. And
I like to walk where possible, but if I have to get public transport, I quite like the train now. The train.
I like the train, and we're really lucky because we've got a train station literally across the roads. So trains all the way. Public transport, trains are amazing. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay, last one. England or Europe? If you were going on your holidays, would you go to a European city or would you come to England?
For Tom.
Tom.
Yeah.
I guess I'd say England because at least I have the least amount of trouble with the language.
Yeah.
Because see, like on this show, a lot of times I'll watch it with the subtitles, even though you're speaking English, it's with the English accent. And besides being from the South, we talk a bit slower here. So there's some things I have to like if I watch a video. Sometimes people from up north or something, they'll be talking and they talk so fast my ears can't listen as fast as they're talking because I'm from the deep South. So but if I went anywhere other than non-speaking English-speaking country, it would be France because I love to. That's where my ancestors are from. I look together, but I don't know at this point if I could get on for the line. Well, I shouldn't say this in front of Sandra. You'd say any language is possible, right?
Right.
That's great awards. Any language is possible. Yeah. So so I'll answer that one for me. Going on holiday in the UK or you're abroad. So I would choose abroad. Definitely. And that's all weather related, culture, food, but predominantly weather, definitely.
And I'm a bit the same because for us to go on holiday is but I think with the past 2 years and having, we have got an amazing country and we've got lots of different places you can go to. And, we were in Wales at the weekend and it was just beautiful. And, we went to Bala where there's a big lake and I went round the lake first thing in the morning and I went for a run and I went up in the hills and I saw a rainbow every single day, sometimes twice in the one day. And when I came home, we arrived in Liverpool and there was a rainbow. And today I went to see Mark Carr today to pick something up. And as I was parked outside his office, there was another rainbow. So I've seen a rainbow Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. How amazing is that?
Incredible.
And rainbows that I've never. So the one that on Sunday in Battersea Coed was the lowest rainbow I've ever seen. It was unbelievable. It was just amazing. So yeah. So I don't know why I've seen so many rainbows because it's a bit of an unusual. I mean, probably because it's raining so much, but it is a bit of an unusual thing to see, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah. So now we know a little bit more about Tom. We are going to speak slightly slower because in Liverpool we speak really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Really quickly, and we have a stranger accent as well. So sometimes some of the words that we say might not translate into, even though we think we're speaking English. Some of the things we say are slightly different, aren't they?
Very much so. Yeah.
So Sandra, you're going to introduce Tom. You're going to tell us all how you and Tom know each other. Then we're going to hand it over to Tom, and he's going to tell us his amazing story, and then we'll finish off with our usual bits and pieces.
So there are a couple of ways I could introduce this. I could say Tom and I met in a hotel and stayed there for several days or weeks, which is actually true. But the truth of the matter is, so I have known Tom now. What year was it, Tom?
2005.
2005. Oh, the year when Liverpool won at Istanbul. So 2005. Okay. And in 2005, I met Tom. because I was in Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans and we were staying in the same hotel. And I'd gone for like a city break of about 6 days with my family. And Tom was just there for like a long weekend, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too sure. And that's how we met. And we were sort of a group of friends who were like, well, we became friends, a group of people who were thrown together in a situation, really, an absolute like disaster situation.
Right.
And
On the island of Ramada.
we've always at the island of Ramada, that was it, because it was everywhere was flooded around us and everything,
Right.
people going past in rowing boats. So Tom and I have always kept in touch via phone and social media now, which is great. And then so I'm so happy that he watches the show. And you're a bit of a super fan, aren't you, Tom? We're very lucky that you catch
Super, but yes, I am a fan.
and you've got a very interesting, because someone's messaged me on the phone privately, not on here, and said, oh, why is he wearing a gown? So we'd like you to tell everyone a gown, hospital, scrubs.
Scrubs.
Tunic.
Scrubs,
Yeah,
right.
tunic
Yeah.
scrubs.
It's not a gown.
No.
Yeah.
Scrubs, yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
I'm guessing they're comfortable.
yes, so if you tell us your story and about the book you've written and the journey you've been on.
Oh Lord. Wow. Well, my Katrina story, the irony of my Katrina story is I was not living in New Orleans at the time.
All right.
I was living in Georgia, in Atlanta.
Oh.
And I came to New Orleans for a job interview and to look at places to live because I was planning on moving back.
That's right.
And it was just supposed to be for a few days. But I ended up staying like a couple of weeks because I mean, the job interview went well and everything was looking good. But before I was able to leave town, this big storm came. And we're stuck here an extra week. And I was here with Sean, my friend Sean, the musician, singer, songwriter. And this is like supposed to be a goodbye trip because I was moving back and he wasn't moving. And it turned out to be more of like a hello, getting to know each other, because after that we were closer than ever and ended up moving in together the next year. So all my plans for moving back to Louisiana got on hold because nobody, even in Louisiana, wanted to live in Louisiana after Katrina. But eventually, things changed, and now I'm back, and I don't plan on leaving.
No.
Yeah.
And what are you doing work-wise there? What's your actual job?
I'm trying to retire.
Yeah.
I've been a nurse for 30 years.
Wow.
Yes, I'm an old nurse, and I'm in the process of trying to retire. I don't know if it's going to work out, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm getting naturally, like all nurses, I'm burnt out on the whole, direct care, working on the floor thing. A lot of nurses, well, after a certain number of decades, it's just too tiring. You get too burnt out. It's just so much difficult. People are not always reasonable, and hospital administrations are not always reasonable. All of that. And no matter how hard you try, you can never, please everybody.
Of course.
And it's just and it's a lot to keep up with nowadays. New technology changes, medications change, treatments change. It's just so much to keep up with now. But if I could do something like working at a desk, I don't know, a desk job, which a lot of people suggest, why don't you do that, Tom? Well, there's several million other nurses looking for those jobs. All nurses are burnt out these days. And those jobs, you have to know somebody. But
I think especially with the last 2 years that we've been through, isn't it?
There are
really,
young
really
nurses that
tough.
are burnt out now. And it was horrifying when it first started. You see pictures of like in New York where they were so overwhelmed. Nurses were wearing like garbage bags for personal protection because they ran out of gowns and stuff. That's sad. That's sad. They don't have the money to give them, Meanwhile, professional athletes and movie stars make millions. They always have money for that. But anyway, I think it's changed now because people are just so much more aware. But it is. Hopefully, things will change just because people's attitudes are starting to change. You know, like when I remember when I used to watch, I never watched medical dramas, but if you did, the nurses were always portrayed as somebody dumb, like not real
Really?
bright and easily fooled and that kind of stuff. And that's not what nurses are. You got to be sharp. You got to be on top of things. You know, especially if you're a psychiatric nurse. Oh, there's people out there with a capacity for evil you wouldn't you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. Tom,
Yeah.
sorry, I was going to ask you, so how come you decided to move back to New Orleans?
Well, at that time I had Sean and I had broken up, and well, for one thing, I had too many exes in Atlanta, and I missed the family. And things changed where it was okay for me to move back. Um, I can explain the details later, but don't want to say it in public. And it's a good thing because my kids all ended up abandoning me. Now, one son lives in Louisiana, one moved to Seattle, one moved to Pennsylvania, and my daughter moved to Tennessee. So I got back sometime before they all left. I mean, we still keep in touch, but you know, it's not the same as seeing them in person.
No.
And all the rest of my family is here. Not many people leave.
No.
Yeah.
Are you in New Orleans itself now or further out?
Well, since Katrina, everybody's kind of spread out. So
Mm.
most of the family is still in the general area. So and like recently there were a couple of funerals to go to when I saw relatives I hadn't seen in decades. And it's kind of embarrassing. You see a first cousin who you used to know really well and you don't recognize them. Like you have to get, I'm sorry, who is that? You know, somebody I've known my whole life, you know, they change so much and people get older and they keep reproducing and you can't keep up with all the nieces and nephews and great nieces and great nephews. You know, it's a very procreative area here.
And how's New Orleans now after Hurricane Katrina's, because it's what is it, 16 years, 17 years?
Going back ever since. New Orleans people are resilient. And it's been a slow project, but it was just heartwarming to see all the generosity afterwards of people who would come to help, which I thought was great. And I don't know, just so much. I mean, like the music business took such a terrible blow because this really live music is real big here, and all these people like artists and musicians and singers who had no job after they had to shut everything down. Well, it's gradually coming back, and it's great. I mean, it's still a great city. This year they're going to have a jazz fest for the first time in a few years.
Amazing.
Last week they had Mardi Gras for the first time in a couple of years, in like 300 years of never missing it.
Yeah.
And we'll see. So far, there hasn't been any news about like outbreaks or, when you have a lot of people partying outside in the street together, that could be a super spreader event. But hopefully, well, traveling is more difficult now. So hopefully, I haven't heard any like spikes in things. And in New Orleans, it's really not the New Orleanians you have to worry about. It's the tourists.
Yeah.
They come they spend a lot of money coming here. So it doesn't matter if it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's cold. They're going to be outside on the street partying.
Yeah.
And drunk and everything else. So, but it's still good to be here. And I miss food. No matter where I go, the food is never as good.
Yeah, it is known. It is known for cookery and that, and all their things. And when I was there, my husband went on a cookery course on the Saturday morning.
Really?
I took my son to they had a children's museum, so he went on and we went. And the lady was and she said, "Oh, we hadn't had the telly on, we knew there'd been a storm in like all of Florida way, and we didn't know anything about it." And she said, "Oh, there's a storm coming, we're not actually going to get." And I said, "Oh, right." And then when my husband came back from his cookery, I said, "Oh, apparently," and he said, "Yes, someone said that." So then we put the TV on, and Jed said, "Oh, did you bring your license?" And I went, "Well, no, we were only, we weren't going to hire a car," and he hadn't brought his, and we just had our passports as ID. So we thought, oh, let's see. And then we couldn't. I rang the airline, couldn't get out or anything, and then we were sort of stuck. And he said at the hotel, "When are you booked to?" And there were people trying to book into the hotel, like local people trying to book to stay in the hotel instead of their own homes, because it was like quite a solid structure. And I remember they said, "When are you booked into?" I said, "Oh, well, we're here till like we got on the Thursday. I think we were going on the Tuesday, and this was Saturday." And they said, "Okay, you can stay." And the guy who managed the hotel, he'd been told to just get rid of everybody, and he said, "I'm not doing that." And he threatened he got his job back, but he near lost his job because he was adamant he was looking after everybody. So he was sort of like, "Ooh." So people said, "Go and get some food in if you can." And so we just strolled out. We went out for dinner the Saturday night. We just went out for tea, as you do. We went to the Garden District, and then the next day, everyone was saying, "Oh no, this is actually going to be quite bad now. So go and get water, go and get one." So we went to the hospital next door, and they had a vending machine, and we bought some stuff there. And then all hell broke loose, really, and that was it. It was just horrendous, wasn't it?
I took my kids to the Children's Museum once.
Oh yeah.
Real quick, I have to tell a story. Okay, I was living in Atlanta and only came to town a few times a year. And my daughter, who was like 6 or 7 at the time, wasn't feeling well that day, but she decided to go anyway because I didn't come in that often. So we went to McDonald's, and the usual thing, I let them get whatever they want, eat themselves sick if they want. And then we went to the IMAX theater, with the 3D glasses.
Oh yeah.
And Sarah had never worn 3D glasses before, seen a show like
Yeah.
that. So after a while, she started getting dizzy looking at the 3D thing. And then after a while, she still wasn't feeling nauseous. She thought she was going to grow up, so I grabbed her and ran close to the door where the nearest trash can was, so she could, just in time, she made it there so she could throw up in the trash can.
Oh God.
However, it turned out it was not the trash can; it was the bin they put the glasses in afterwards. So we promptly left and never went back.
That's a red face.
That's a great red face.
Red face. Oh, I love that.
That's amazing.
Story.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Before we have to leave. Go on.
I know. So going back to New Orleans and where you are now, and what is your sort of day jobby? So I know you're looking to get out, but previous to your story of how did you become a nurse? Was it something you've always wanted to do? Was it something that you fell into?
Well, when I was married, I wasn't able to pursue anything because I had a very high maintenance wife. I'll put it that way. And of course, we're busy having babies all the time. It's what Catholics do. You don't use birth control. You just keep. That's what we're taught. That's what you're supposed to do. Your purpose in life is to procreate. Well, I had 4 terrific kids, but it wasn't until I moved to Atlanta that I went to nursing school. And I always thought about it, and I liked the idea, but back then, men didn't become nurses. I mean, they were rare. It was like 1% of all nurses. Nowadays, it's not such a big deal. But I remember my kids came to visit when I was in Atlanta, and one of them had the chicken pox. Oh, well, I knew all of them did eventually. Yeah. But I was taking care of my son Matthew, putting the calamine lotion on and things and all, and he was surprised that I was in school because he didn't know grown-ups went to school. And I said, "Well, I'm studying to be a nurse." And he looked at me and said, "Well, you can't be a nurse? Boys can't be nurses." Wow. So I said, "Well, I'm taking care of you now that you're sick. Aren't I doing a good job?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Well, there you go. I can be just as good a nurse as any female." Though it used to be there was a term, male nurse. Like it was something different.
That's right.
And now you're just a nurse because it's not such a big deal. Now I remember meeting I don't remember where they're from, a friend of a friend who was from somewhere in Europe, where in that language, you probably know it, Sarah, but Sandra, but there's a totally different word from nurse and male nurse, female nurse and male nurse. And it wasn't just like the difference in genders like saleswoman, salesman. It was a totally different word, and I thought that was interesting. I don't remember what language it was.
I was going to say, yeah.
I don't remember what it was. Anyway, and but when I first started, the people would ask me, "Are you a male nurse?" I'd say, "Well, last time I checked." Um, Another good line is, "Well, no, I take care of female patients too." But
You should
usually,
have said, Tom, you should
yeah.
have said, well, I was a doctor, but it killed someone. So they put me on nursing duties, but I'm still really good.
No, that wouldn't play
That wouldn't
well.
have gone down well.
It's hilarious.
And there were times when I first started that some female patients would say no, they refused to have a male nurse.
Yeah.
Of course, you don't know what their background is. They could have had an abusive father, who knows what. But it was pretty common to have nurses say, "No, I don't want him taking care of him," you know.
Yeah.
Because now they'll let the male doctor do anything,
Yeah.
inspect them, any part of their body, inside and out, and everything. That's okay. But as a nurse, male is just something different. Well, we all got to be some gender.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about your book you wrote anyway? Did you say you entered in a competition?
I read a short story. I'm still working on the book that I'm writing, but
Yeah.
this was like, oh, this is back in Atlanta. This couple I know was doing this writing contest. Look at all the details, but I entered it with, and there were like something like 20, 30 other stories, and they told me it's one of the best. And when they published the book of all the best stories, they said I had a good chance of winning. Well, as it turned out, the couple had all kind of problems, deaths in the family. I mean, totally disrupting things. They had to drop the whole project altogether. However, the good thing about it was it got me to write this story and put it all together, and so now I've shared it, and a lot of people have enjoyed it. But
And can we get this story anywhere?
if I got where, yeah, well, I have an email. I can send it to you if you want.
Oh, yeah, we'd like it. We'd like to have a bit of an email going on there with the story.
Well, I took pictures while we were there, and they were saved in the computer, and I wish I still had them. But I was seeing my sisters, and the computer didn't work anymore, and it was in her shed, and so, well, it doesn't work, and she threw it out. Well, even though the computer doesn't work, you can still get the pictures from it, but they're gone forever, so it's okay. But but there's lots more. But it's still a lot. You just have to imagine it. And I remember we started. I don't remember, Sandra, if you remember, we were talking about, well, what if they make a movie of this? We all wanted to choose who we get to play us. Somebody said with me it should be Liam Nielsen, I think.
Oh, Liam Neeson, good shout, yeah.
Or who's the other one? Harrison Ford. Any one of these older guys. Anyway, I haven't submitted to any, studio who wants to take it as a screenplay. Anyway, but it is an interesting story, and it got me writing. And nowadays, when things come up, I have this National Day calendar. Every day is a day for something. National Popcorn Day. Today's National Kansas Day or Sunflower Day. And so I write little stories, and now I've started saving every one of them. Because, like, you would say National Bologna Day.
Mm-hmm.
I have lots of stories about that because I hated bologna when I was a kid. But some people love it, some people don't. One of the stories is back in the old days, Catholics couldn't eat meat on Friday.
Yeah.
And once you reach the 6-year-old first grade thing where you make your first communion, you can't eat meat anymore on Friday. But younger than that, you can. So I remember getting a bologna sandwich when my older sister got a cheese sandwich. And I thought, I'll be glad when I can't eat meat on Friday so I can get a cheese sandwich instead of bologna. So, what was the sacrifice there?
Yeah.
Eating meat is supposed to be a sacrifice, but I was looking forward to having cheese instead of bologna. So it just shows the quality. Anyway, so I told stories like that. So I started saving them too, so I don't know what I'm going to do when I get them all together. Maybe just publish it as a book with all. But there's so many things that, bring to mind stories. And now I'm getting to the age where there's so few other people who remember the same memories as me. Yeah. And some of the people even still around, they don't remember. So I have to start writing a lot just to have, somebody's got to listen to these stories. Fewer people or left who remember the old days.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway, and so I've been through a lot, many stories, but
it's true that, Tom, because like in our working environment, we have young people in business and things like that. And you'll talk about things and then you've got 3 people looking at you because they don't know what you're referring to because it's something that they've never heard of. And where were we the other week at a meeting, a breakfast meeting, and someone said a famous person and they had to look it up and show one of the guys.
Yasmin Le Bon it was.
Yasmin Le Bon, that's right. One of the guys said something about Yasmin Le Bon, the model. And he went, sorry, who's that? And they were like, oh, and it's like really famous people and just things you say all the time, or you just don't know what you're talking about, you know. And even in our lifetime, things have changed so much. And like young people, they can't imagine not having a mobile phone, not having an internet.
Oh, right.
And I said, well, actually, when I was young, people used to, where we live, Tom, people used to say to you, when I was young, if you met, they'd say, oh, are you on the phone? And that meant, do you have a phone at your house? Because not everyone had a phone. They'd go to a phone box to speak to people and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think part of the stories that you're saying about, I wanted to create a community cookbook. So I wanted recipes from older generations who, because people tend to not cook as much now, you know, they'll buy processed foods and things. And I thought you've got all of these generations who, you know, when their grandmas have passed the recipes down or something. But I want the grandmas to write. So such and such might be amazing for making, you know, like an apple pie, for instance.
Right.
And then somebody, and I thought if you could get this older generation to all, you would keep those traditions and those memories of amazing food. I wanted to create like a community cookbook and get the best of the best of everybody. So we don't lose it. And it's a bit like your memories, you know, you're saying there's people who are not possibly around anymore or things change so much. It's keeping those little memories, isn't it? And it's nice to pick a book up and read it and think, and I bet you some young people would pick that book up and think, that never happened, that. There's no way he's made all that up. You know?
And you can't help but admire, in the old days, people who was a lot more challenging coming up with good meals, delicious meals, tasty, nutritious meals.
Yeah.
And you had to, I mean, nowadays you have access to everything.
Yeah.
You know, everything in the world. In the old days, like you didn't eat vegetables unless you grew them in your garden.
Yeah.
You didn't eat chicken unless you raised chickens in your garden. So they had to make the most of what they had. And when you they're so resourceful back then.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And they'd eat seasonally, wouldn't they? You know, so if it was, you know, we'd eat through the season. So if carrots, you know, were in the autumn, we'd eat carrots, then you wouldn't have them in the summer. Whereas now you just get carrots wailed year round.
You can get anything anywhere, just about.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people in Europe are like that, though. They would never. One of my Spanish friends said to me, she said, we would never, ever, ever eat strawberries in December on some floor. It wouldn't enter our heads at all. They would say, are you mad? You know, they have things when it's the best, and like all our, you know, fruits all a similar size. They don't have that. They don't like it because they think, well, that's not good. It's not fresh or whatever. And you can, when you go into the market, you can smell all the lovely fresh fruit there. You know, it's different than everything being uniform. You know, I think you're quite right. And just going back to Helen, what you were saying, and you, Tom, about memories and people keeping date from when they were older. One of the things that happened that was very positive was one of the guys at the hotel when we stayed there in New Orleans. He had been through, there was a big hurricane, I think it was 1968, was it, or something in the late 60s. And he was an elderly man, and he told me all about it. And he said, and he'd been a kid then, and he said, right, this is what's going to happen. And had he not explained to me about the noise level and what to expect and when it would be quiet and how loud and like a drone, because you don't realize if you've never been in a massive hurricane like that, you don't know. And because he prepared me, when it was happening, I thought, yeah, that's what the man said would happen. and it was much, much better than if I'd have thought. I just thought we were going to be going to Jupiter at any moment. You know, the noise, the sheer volume of sound was it was like a horn, the loudest horn you've ever heard, going on for hours. It was just so loud, and that was the thing, really, you know, when it actually struck. But of course, for us, the issue wasn't the hurricane; it was the aftermath. I mean, we looked out the windows, and there was a Hyatt, I think, opposite, and we'd got like a budget deal in the Ramada. Every window was smashed. You know, all these places there were cars. We went out and walked around because it wasn't flooded then. You'd have one car there, the next car would be upside down, the next car was fine. It was so random, the damage. And then, of course, although it was extensive in the part where we were, but then what happened was the night after, I heard something. I just heard, and I just got up, and there was no electricity or anything, but I could see a sparkle out the window because the moonlight was shining in the water that hadn't been the day there before. It was a road, and cars were floating past in water like that. And you know, and I hadn't expected that. And that man had said to me, the issue for us will be if the levees break. He said that, you know, so that was great that was passed on. You know, and I think a lot of people don't accept the wisdom of older people and the knowledge they have and as skills, as you said.
Yeah.
Because everybody thinks they know the best, don't they?
Yeah. Right. Funny, Tom, what were you saying then?
But it could have been avoided, the flood. If the levees had been prepared, like I remember George W. Bush stating, well, there's no way we could have known whatever he said. And I'm like, no, I was in grammar school when I heard them talking about, you know, someday there's going to be we have to fix the levees. We have to upgrade the levees because someday, well, here it happened, you know, in 2005, the whole city was flooded. So I thought that was ridiculous. I've been hearing that for years, but, you know.
What drama that was. That was the drama. Definitely.
It was a drama, wasn't it? And it is like, you know, it is like being in a movie, isn't it? You know, and these things are just, isn't it, you know.
I knew something was wrong, Helen, when we got to Manchester Airport and were met with a police escort to get us through the press. I was like, hello? I thought, what is that? He said, we've come to help you. And I was like, right. And and everything. And we had ITV, everything at the airport, all of that. And these people rescued us, you know, from like a queuing up for 3 pieces of bread in the middle of the night. And these people rescued us. They were amazing and took us to their home. And we were driving all through the night. They took us to Denny's and had breakfast because people had eaten and stuff. And we had like, you know what it's like here in Liverpool. Everyone knows everyone. And someone knew someone in the Foreign Office. Someone else was onto this newspaper, that newspaper. The phone was going. And the Foreign Office rang their house, and they lived in this like little town called Denton outside of Dallas. And they went, who are you people? And they were like, you know, and they were like, are you rich? We were like, no, not at all. But it was just like everyone, and even people I worked with who didn't know they were phoning people, and everyone was like thinking, right, what can we do? How can we help? Because obviously as it went on and on and on, and we were stuck there. You know?
It's just it's unbelievable, isn't it? And it's lovely that you're still, you know, friends. Although it was like, you know, a horrendous circumstance that brought you together, it's lovely that you're still friends.
But, you know, I don't know about you, Tom, but it was a very life-changing experience for me. But even before that happened at the hurricane, was just how I saw there was massive racial inequality. And I've been to America so many times, but to different parts. And naively, I hadn't quite anticipated how that was. But it was very, like the people at the front of house in the restaurants were white people. The black people were in the back. And it was incredible. And I just thought, what is going on? And I said to Jed, you know, if I'd have known it was like this, I wouldn't have got. And he said the same, because we didn't go to South Africa when there was apartheid there, you know. So, I mean, I felt very strongly about it. And I think one of the reasons I went into teaching to educate people was through that trip, because I wasn't a teacher then, you know, I'd finished uni and that as a mature student, and it was a real life-changing. And also the act of kindness we received from the people who drove through that, because a lot of terrible things happen. The behaviour of some people was just horrendous there. It was just shocking. And but we also received this immense act of kindness that we saw. And for a long time afterwards, I remember in a situation, and I think, well, what would Trey do? What would they do? Yeah, they'd help this person. And I think the act of kindness I received there influenced my character massively, and gave me strength to like help other people in any situation I could, you know. And I think if you've been the recipient of an act of kindness like that, where someone's taking you into the home and let you sit, you know, they gave up their beds for us in that family and and then their friends took us to the airport and everything, where we got an upgrade to first class and everything. So, you know, all of that was just, it was just such an amazing thing to receive, you know.
Yeah. Amazing.
And it's sad that it's such a surprising thing. Like, why should we be surprised that people are helping each other? But, you know, we all get so skeptical about people in general, because you hear a lot more about the negative stuff. Oh,
yeah, of course.
It's one of the things I like about your show is you actually talk about positive things.
Yeah.
There's early shows where people are bitching about this and bitching about that and complaining about everything, the economy and politics. And, you know, no, we know about that. We hear about that all the time. What we need to do is hear about the good things people are doing. And there's lots of unsung heroes who, especially in schools with children, there's teachers who make sacrifices every day that help the children, and, you know, they don't get any. They're not even paid decently.
Yeah, no. 1,000,000%. And nurses are the same. You know, nurses are the same. And
absolutely.
Well, it's changing with nurses as far as pay goes. Because when I first started as a nurse, I was making the same as MORTA bus drivers. That's the transit in Atlanta. The MORTA bus drivers were making the same as me. It was like 11 something an hour. Now it's, of course, a hell of a lot more, but you got to be suspicious. I get emails about, well, we're offering $10,000, $15,000 sign-on bonuses, and well, there's got to be a reason that we're going to pay you that much to sign on. So I don't trust them. It's just too overwhelming. Or maybe it's just that I'm getting older.
Yeah, older and wiser now, isn't it? Okay, so we've only got 3 minutes left because it's just absolutely flown by. So quickly, we've heard the red face from you, Tom, which was amazing, where you took your little girl and she was sick in the glasses bucket, which is brilliant. You got a red face, San?
I have, and I thought I'll tell you that tomorrow on the show, and I can't remember what it was. You say yours, and it might come to me.
Okay, so last week we did our show from Fletcher's, and one of our friends, Joe Swinney, couldn't make it. And Christine Penno gave me a graze board to take to Joe to say, you know, sorry you couldn't make it, but here's some food. So I text Joe and I said, I'm going to drop the food off for you. And it was a bit late. It was about 9:30, 10:15 by the time I got home. And I thought it's a bit late to knock at somebody's door. So I'll take it the next day. So I text Joe and I said, I'll bring you the food later. So I knocked on the door and her dad was there. So I said, oh, this is for Joe. And he said, oh, lovely, she's just gone out. I said, yeah, that's fine. And then I went to Autism in Motion where I play whack-a-ball. And the lady there, Jo, was like, oh, isn't that really kind of Christine to send me a graze board and stuff? And I was like, what? Anyway, I'd text the wrong Jo to say I was giving her the food. So I was like, so poor Jo in Autism in Motion didn't get a graze box because it wasn't for her anyway. But she was thinking, oh, how lovely is that she's going to get a graze board. So never mind. But the right Jo got it. The wrong Jo never. But she's still my friend, so that's okay.
Oh, I know what I did. I texted the wrong parent, 2 parents. I teach 2 kids with the same surname, both girls, both doing GCSE languages, though different ones. And I teach them both on a Monday with someone in between. And I messaged the wrong parent to say that the money was due for one of the kids and how they were getting on and everything. But big GDPR, I realised, deleted it straight away. But then had to explain, oh, I'm sorry this happened. So I just felt stupid, really. That was that. Yeah. Not as bad as the plug one from like the woman in Battle. I was howling over my plug incident on Wednesday. Yeah, Yvonne, yeah.
So we've got 30 seconds. And Tom, we're going to say a massive, massive thank you for giving up your lunchtime. Is it lunchtime?
Yeah,
Yeah. To be with us, and a massive thank you for watching our show and joining in with us every week. It's been absolutely amazing to actually put a face to the name and see. And you are our first international guest, which is another amazing thing.
Yeah. First out of Merseyside guest, let alone the UK.
Yeah. Right. So do you have a mantra that you live by, a positive quote that you can share with everybody?
I'll think about, we're all supposed to love each other. God wants us to love each other as members of the same family and everything. And we all know some people are easy to love and some are difficult. I remember my mother used to say, you're never any closer to God than you are to the person you love the least. So like, for today, try to find one of those people on your list of least favorite people or most difficult to love, and try to think one good thing about them. And that's a start. Nice. You don't have to like them necessarily, but think one good thing, and that's a start.
Lovely.
Because everybody has something.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So look for the good in everybody, and we will see you all next week. And a massive thank you again, Tom, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.